Christmas is coming, the year is almost ending, and I gave myself a double feature of movies this week. And by the way, this is gonna be my final movie going of the year. Next week I got some other things to do. Basically Christmas. So I decided to end up the day, the year, with watching the final two movies that came out this year. In one day, yeah. Like I said, double feature. But what are the two movies that I just saw? Let's go in order. The first one I saw was Aquaman, the latest of DC Universe, the DC Universe movies. I am kind of hoping for this one to die, honestly, because look at the track record that the DC Cinematic Universe had. And look at Man of Steel, it sucked. Batman vs. Superman, I hated it. Suicide Squad is awful. Wonder Woman, I personally think that it's overrated. It's not a bad movie, but it has some bad elements. It stinks. It has some stinks there, not to be too harsh on it. And the only reason I think that Wonder Woman is successful is mostly partly because of the SJW culture. And this is why people are kind of put a blind side on some of the bad things that happen. But I'm not going to go into so much detail by that. But still, Wonder Woman is still kind of like the better of all the movies. Well, let's say that Justice League is a total mess. And even without that mess, it's still an awful movie that comes from an awful past. So, the best way I can describe the DC Universe movies is that it's a total... that it's kind of like a building that is crumbling. It's crumbling because the base is not well adjusted. And the bigger it goes, then it will definitely fall later. And I always said that the DC Universe should kill themselves. They should pull the lever. No more movies following that storylines. But they still going at it, and they decided to make Aquaman, and there's still more. Nobody's listening to the lesser people. Let's go with a little bit of a silver lining. Because Aquaman this time, it only has that asshole of Zack Snyder producing it. The directive chair and all the creative liberties actually comes with a, well, let's say that a better director, with this James Wan, who I have this love-hate relationship with this guy. He's a fun director. I mean, he made the Final Destination films, which are a lot of fun, but I still can't forgive him for Dragon Ball Evolution. But anyway, we got our Aquaman film, the movie about probably one of the most lesser, well-known but lesser superhero of the DC Universe. I mean, I know because technically in my past, many people made fun of Aquaman, claiming that, well, talking to fish is not technically a great superpower. So he was kind of like the basis of a lot of jokes. Just like,
it's time for sunshine and happy smiles, chocolate rainbows and friendly fish. Come along and join your friends at the Aquaman Action Hour.
Here comes Aquaman and friends.
Yeah, like that. But over the years, he's getting a little bit of respect here and there. I saw this movie right now, and here's the best description I can say about the newest Aquaman film. This is a movie that is technically like building a very pretty mansion, looking good, in the middle of Hiroshima. If you don't understand it, here's the short version. I absolutely really like this movie. It's probably the best DC Universe movie there is now. But it still has the stench of the Zack Snyder storylines that he messed up. It kind of makes me wonder where where was this movie when we needed it? The DC Universe kind of deserves a movie like that, but unfortunately it came out way too late. And funnily enough, for a movie that is about a superhero, standalone superhero, it feels more epic than what they promised us on Justice League. And it should have been the reverse. So as you can tell, this is basically what feels a little bit like an origin story of Aquaman, which should have come in the first place before Justice League. And it kind of proves some of the things that kind of work. Like, for example, we have our actor Jason Momoa, who, if I had to be a little bit blunt, he wasn't technically the bad part of the Justice League movie. I think he was at least good for the role. Even though the way his acting, the way he talks and all this stuff, for some reason he's kind of like a doppelganger of Chris Hemsworth as Thor in Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not a bad thing. It just kind of get somehow a similar vibe on him, which it gives out a little bit of a fresh, charismatic take on what we know from Aquaman. I just, sorry, is that I'm not 100% familiar with the new DC Universe personalities, but I know that Aquaman is technically a proud king of Atlantean, and that's mostly what I can say about this movie. Yeah, that movie is... Oops. Sorry, I just kicked the camera while moving myself. Luckily didn't fall. Alright, what else I can... I'm just kind of rambling here and there, but basically the movie is just Aquaman and getting his rights to take the throne from Atlantis, but it's just kind of like a complicated matter. Let's say that he's a hybrid son of an Atlantean and a human that was supposed to be. Then he grew up to become, of course, the hero that we know, and he has to take the throne from his brother, or half-brother, whatever you want to call it, because he's waging war under the sea, and he's gonna bring the Atlantean wars to the human side, because of course pollution and all this stuff, and well, it is up to Arthur, his real name, / Aquaman, to reclaim the throne. But of course, the king, that king is too powerful, so he must get kind of like a much more powerful trident that belonged to the first king of Atlantis. And well, let's say that the storyline kind of flows very well. It deals with Aquaman kind of learning what it means to be the king, why he's fit to be a king. The meaning of mercy and all this stuff, and it does well. He's actually also during this whole quest he's accompanied by another Atlantean who becomes his love interest. Her name is Mara, played by Amber Heard, and around him we also get these other great actors. I mean, I got my IMDb here. We got Willem Dafoe as his master Volko, who. Honestly, he does a better job than he did in his voice acting in that piece of shit movie of Death Note. There's Patrick Wilson as the main antagonist. I'm kind of surprised that we got also Nicole Kidman and Dolph Lundgren doing this, going there. And there's also this guy who plays named Yahya Abdul Mateen II. And he plays who's gonna become Aquaman's nemesis, who is none other than Black Manta. And he's kind of like what will happen if the main bad guy from Black Panther he's kind of like a bloodthirsty pirate, because he's technically what it is. And I like what they did to this character. But he kind of becomes a little bit like a secondary boss. But it doesn't bother me. It kind of shows what this movie can do in building a little bit of a storyline. But unfortunately, that still means that we're gonna have movies with that bullshit storyline from Man of Steel and all this stuff. Oh god. I know it's successful. I know this movie's great, but can't we just eliminate that storyline? Retcon it. I don't care. Just do something about it. I mean, the only thing that kind of kills my mood on that movie is when Mara begins to talk in a little bit of exposition, and she tells Arthur, hey Arthur, I know that you're the guy who saves the world by fighting Steppenwolf. At least I kind of love the reaction of Arthur, in which when he hears about that bullshit movie, he just kind of goes like this. It's almost like the actor is like saying, "Oh, please don't remind me." Alright, the special effects, let's say that we're really, really busy. I was kind of afraid that this movie is gonna look really bad, but ironically, it actually looks really good, I must admit. And I gotta admit that even during the climax of the film, it looks really, really epic. It's a million times epic than what we had in that Wonder Woman film, or worse, Justice League. Man, I just kind of like to... I just kind of put a lot of sarcasm and snide on Justice League, because this is kind of like a movie that kind of deserves it, and it shows that with now that we have a movie that looks legitimately good, it makes me feel bad taunting the other one, like saying, haha, this is what you were supposed to be, because, well, it was supposed to be like that. Again, if only they had a lot of more thoughtful thinking on their stories, instead of just doing it and had a lot of production problems, it wouldn't have been that way. And honestly, yeah, if you work out well on the story, in this case, a good structure, doesn't matter if it's just a typical story of would-be king in his quest to become a rightful king. That is fine, as long as it's done well. And another thing that I kind of noticed is that while it tries to also being going into the line of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the kind of style of humor and pacing, that's technically not a bad thing. Again, it is said that imitation is the sincerest way of flattery, and it shows that it kind of follows that kind of pacing, but it doesn't necessarily copies it. Because now, to put it on hindsight, the biggest problem that the DC universe had at first is that it tried to become a little bit too dark. It tried to follow the footsteps of the Christopher Nolan films, which was really dark, really, let's say, psychologically humanistic in a way. And don't get me wrong, despite that I always say that Christopher Nolan was a very pretentious filmmaker, I do like his Batman film. I don't think that it kind of worked in a way to Superman. I mean, it could be done, but it could have been done better with a better storyline, or a better script, or a better direction. And if we go with Batman vs. Superman thing, a better casting. And I'm just taking a snide on Jesse Eisenberg and Lex Luthor. He was worse. He was a worse miscast. And don't get me wrong, I do like Ben Affleck as Batman. And the less we talk about Suicide Squad, the better. And the less we talk about Justice League, even though that won't promise, the better. And and this is so technically it was supposed to be fun. It has to have his deep moments, but in the moments that it is supposed to be, and even the jokes doesn't feel forced in this case. Not like the Flash and Justice League, where they try to make him like a funny character, but the punchlines, it doesn't work. It comes up kind of forced and not funny. Although I do see that there were some parts of the funny part doesn't land as well, but they do a better job compared to the other movies. And if I keep talking much about this movie, it's gonna take a while, so I'm gonna have to leave it out like that and saying that I do give my high recommendations to Aquaman. A movie that gave out a better treatment to what I consider a really underrated superhero in the line of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again, sorry, is that I did tend to see a lot of jokes concerning his superpowers. You know, like... Yeah, I like that.